One day, I decided I was fed up with being who I was. I was a kid, I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I decided I wasn't cool. I wanted to be like someone else. So I looked around my room, a 5-year-old's room, and I saw who I wanted to be like. I saw this picture of Superman. And I thought, that's who I want to be. Jonathan Malm, he's a dud. Superman, he's a hero. But I didn't really know what to do to become like Superman. How do you even approach that? So as a 5-year-old, I just did what I could do. I looked at a picture of Superman and I realized, okay, so he's got the blue pants and he's got that red underwear on the outside. So that must be what it means to be Superman. You got your pants on and then your underwear on the outside. So one morning, I put on my jeans, then I got my nice, clean Superman undies and put them on over, and I was like, yes, I am Superman now. I am finally as cool as Superman. And I walked to the mirror and I looked at myself and just realized something wasn't quite right. I wasn't Superman, and I kind of looked like a fool. So obviously I changed and put on the appropriate order of clothes. But I think sometimes that's what we can kind of do whenever we're trying to copy someone else. When we see something that we like in someone else, we see something creative that someone's done, or we see something that one church has done, and we try to do that ourselves. And unfortunately, we try to copy them, but we're copying the wrong things. And we kind of end up looking like a 5-year-old with their underwear on the outside of their pants. It can be a bit silly. The thing is, I think God has made us to be individuals. There are different things about you that make you impossible to copy. Superman is not Superman because of his garb, his cape, and his underwear on the outside of his tights. He's Superman because of his skills, his background, his alien nature, all that stuff. That's what makes him him. So when you're trying to copy him, you're kind of missing out on some of the basic background stuff that makes Superman Superman. I believe that's the same with people. There are things about you that no one else can copy. I think it's true of churches, too. There are different churches. Maybe your city, maybe your philosophy, your pastor, your congregation. All of these things make your church unique, and no other church can be like you. But it's so tempting to try to copy someone else. It's so tempting to see something someone else does and say, oh, we got to do that, we got to try that, and we're just missing the point. We kind of end up being a little bit silly. I think about Lakewood Church. Lakewood is, the largest church in America, and I think about what they do with their parking. If you don't know about Lakewood Church, they meet in downtown Houston, and they are in this massive arena, and they have a parking garage. And because this parking garage is so huge, they actually have to hire parking lot attendants. They hire these people, their staff. Then I think about a rural church of maybe 200 people. Now, Lakewood does parking really well, but if that church in rural Indiana wants to do the same thing and tries to hire parking lot attendees, they're just missing the point. They're wasting money. They're just being kind of silly. Parking 100 cars is not the same thing as parking 10,000 cars. Or I think about, what if Joel Osteen, again, like Lakewood Church, decided he wanted to be like Ed Young? He's like, I just think you got to have Holy Ghost swagger. That just doesn't really fit who Joel Osteen is. It would be a bit silly, right? I think we do that so many times, though, in the church. Either as pastors, we see a pastor and we try to be like them, or we see some sort of artistic endeavor and we try to do that. It just ends up being silly. Or I met this Norwegian guy. I was speaking at a conference. I was talking about using visuals, kind of something similar to what Stephen was talking about. And I was giving these really flashy, crazy illustrations of what you can do with visuals. And this Norwegian guy who was visiting the country came up to me afterwards, and he said, Jonathan, that was great, but I don't even know what to do with that. Because in Norway, they don't do that. The U.S. is all about causing people to go into seizures. We love stimulation overload, right? Brightest colors, flashing lights. In Norway, it's not like that. And he's like, I don't even know how to apply what you're showing me to my church in Norway. They just have different sensibilities. So I imagine, Joel Osteen's spinning globe in a church in Norway, and people would just be like, what do you do with that? So my goal this morning is to tell you that you are unique, which I hope you believe that. You are unique. There's no one else like you. But I think there are also 5 things that you can start looking at to discover what makes you unique. There are 5 things, I think, that make you different from anyone else And I think by tapping into those 5 things, you'll realize your potential. You'll realize an opportunity you have for creativity and for creative expression that no one else has. You don't have to try to copy someone else. You can be yourself. First thing I want to talk to you about is your strengths. Like, that's obvious, right? Some people are good at some things. Some people are good at other things. But I want to talk about something a little bit deeper. I had a friend who was writing a book. He was trying to self-publish this book. And if you know about self-publishing, like, that's a hard thing to do. Like, you're probably not going to be very successful in self-publishing if you don't have a platform or an audience or connections. And he didn't have any of that stuff. But he was really trying to make a go of it. And unfortunately, while he was doing this, he was kind of breaking social protocol. You guys know that? Who just they kind of like ask for favors they shouldn't ask for. Like, my friend would meet someone, and he's like, "Hey, can I guest post in your magazine?" And the guy's like, well, I don't even know you, man. Like, why would I give you this platform? And he would just do this all the time. So people kind of just wanted to ignore the guy. They kind of wanted to stay away from him. I was intimidated to introduce him to someone because I knew that it would make me look bad if this guy's asking for all this stuff and breaking protocol. So this guy thought that he was the exception to this rule of protocol, and he wasn't. And he was failing at it miserably. But then you have this other person, my brother. My brother, Jonathan Malm, he wrote a book too. He is, for some reason, he is the exception to this rule of protocol. Like, you meet this guy, and in 1 minute, you're willing to die for him. Like, he just has your heart from the beginning. And so he was going through this whole publishing process, and he asked the publisher if they would bankroll some videos for him for his book. He's a first-time author, and his agent was like, "Don't do that. Do not do that. That's against protocol. They're going to say no, and they're going to be insulted." He asked, and they're like, "Sure, we'd love to do that for you." And then he's like, "Well, I'd like to get some brochures printed up. Would you guys be willing to do that?" And again, the agent was like, "Don't do that. Don't do that." But he asked, and they did it, and they were happy to do it. See, my brother is kind of the exception to the rule of protocol. And I believe in your life, there are rules that you're the exception to. Like, there's something that you can do that no one else seems to get by with. Like, I have friends who, they're just able to make connections. Like, they're able to make friends with anyone. They're kind of the exception to that rule of, like, friendship is tough. Like, the rule is friendship is tough. But my one friend, he somehow can make friends in an instant. There are other people who are able to kind of negotiate and get things out of a situation that no one else can do. That's an exception to the rule. So I want you to evaluate your life and evaluate what rules you find that you're the exception to. Because I guarantee there are some. There's something that you get away with that no one else does. And there's huge opportunity in that. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is something we talked about strengths, I believe your weaknesses are an opportunity for you. First of all, they kind of tell you what you should probably stay away from. Like, if you have a weakness of alcoholism, you should stay away from bars. Like, that kind of helps guide you into what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. But it was funny, whenever I wrote this book, this Created for More book, and it was the weirdest thing because people wanted my signature on the book. Like, they wanted me to sign their copy. And first of all, I thought that was weird because it's devotional. It's like, why? Like, I don't know, I just felt that was weird. But then also, I'm very, very self-conscious about my penmanship. Like, I write kind of like a 2-year-old. Like, it's atrocious. So anytime someone asked me to sign their book, I was like, man, I don't want to ruin this beautifully printed piece. Like, I felt like I was destroying this art by putting my signature on it. And it was funny, I actually asked my wife, I had some people asking me to send them copies in the mail, and I actually asked my wife, I'm like, babe, can you just sign these for me and just like write in them? Because her penmanship's beautiful, mine's ugly. And, she told me she wouldn't do that, and that was wrong. But I really wanted to do that because I was just so embarrassed and so ashamed of my signature. And it took me a while to realize, as ugly as my signature is, that's me. Like, that's who they want. They want me. I could get Rick Warren to sign the book or Joel Osteen to sign the book, but really those signatures would be worthless in my book because that's my book. It's my signature. It's my identity. So with all of my flaws, with all my horrible penmanship, I started signing books. And I believe that there are weaknesses in your life that make you unique. Not talking about, sin. Obviously, we want to get sin out of our lives. But there are things that you're weak in that actually make you an individual. Next, I want to talk about your background. I don't know of many people who've been attacked by 4 different monkeys, who've fallen into raw, open sewage, all while living in a third world country that was engaged in a civil war. Like, that's my story. Like, I have a pretty crazy background. No one else probably has that background here. But you have a unique background in your life that has shaped who you are. It could be a good thing, good things in your background, could be bad things in your background. You know, if you have a really good background, education, great family that taught you really well, you have a leg up in areas that other people don't have. You have this foundation to start from where you can just, shoot for the moon, and other people are really struggling with basic things that you already have established. But, I believe even in the bad stuff, there are opportunities for you. Some of us have bad backgrounds. We have abuse in our history, or we have family that didn't really believe in us. And the thing is, those bad things in our background give you something called moral authority. I can't talk about overcoming alcoholism because I've never gone through that. I have no moral authority in that situation. I can tell you some good tips maybe or things that I read, but you're not going to really want to listen to me because I have no moral authority. If you've been through those things, if you've been through bad situations, come from poverty, come from abuse, you have a way to speak to people that no one else has. You have an opportunity to be able to impact people's lives because you have moral authority. So there's so many things in our lives that we shy away from, like, the bad stuff or our weaknesses. I want you to start seeing those things as opportunities that make you who you are. Next is limitations. We talked about weaknesses, which are more kind of internal. Limitations are external stuff. So maybe you don't have finances. Maybe you live in a region that makes things complicated, what you're wanting to try to accomplish. I believe limitations are actually an opportunity for you. I think about the story of Gideon. You guys are probably familiar with the story of Gideon. He was called to fight a battle with 30,000 people around there, Israelites against 135,000 Midianites. Like, that's a 1-to-5 ratio, right? Like, they were really outnumbered, Gideon and his clan. But then God tells Gideon to start limiting down his troops. He limits it down to 300 people, right? So Gideon's already probably terrified to go against this massive group of people. He thinks he's going to lose. And then he's down to 300 people. 300 against 135,000. Like, that's super intimidating, right? Yes, it is. But the thing is, and so many times in the scriptures we see these stories of miracles, and they're kind of inaccessible because they're so supernatural. But really, this miracle of the 300 beating the 135,000, it's not, frankly, that supernatural. Like, really what it was is it was a creative battle plan. Like, Gideon used shock and awe tactics to scare the Midianites, basically. They surrounded them, if you're not familiar with the story, they surrounded them at night with torches and trumpets, surrounded the whole army on the mountainside, and then they unveiled their torches, they blew their trumpets, and they just scared the crap out of these Midianites. And the Midianites turned on each other, they won the battle. And the crazy thing about this is this creative idea from God or from Gideon, it doesn't really say who it actually was, but this creative idea, if Gideon had like 5 times the army, if they were like evenly matched, Gideon might have won. He might have won with his 30,000. But the thing is, there would have been massive casualties in the Israelite nation. With this 300 people, this creative idea, there were 0 casualties. Like, I believe limitations force creative solutions. Like, limitations are an opportunity for you to see something no one else will see and to try things no one else will try. So I want to encourage you, embrace your limitations. Like, don't be bucking against them so much. They're actually an opportunity there. And finally, the 5th thing that I think makes you unique is they're just people you attract. Excuse me. Based on your age, your gender, your appearance, your race, there are certain people you're going to attract that I'm not going to attract. Like, that can be frustrating for you if you feel called business people and you tend to attract like single mothers. Like, that can feel really frustrating because you're like, well, I want to reach these rich business people, and the people who are listening to you are single mothers. But I think you need to figure out who it is that you reach and embrace that. I tend to attract artists. I don't really attract business people. And I can be really frustrated about that, or I can embrace it and find the opportunity there. There are people you attract, and there's an opportunity there. And all these things, excuse me, whenever we put them together, there's this German word, it's Gestalt. And really what that means is that the sum is worth more than the individual parts. Let me illustrate this for you. So let's say you have a brake pedal, right? A brake pedal is not really worth anything if it's not attached to a car. I mean, yeah, you can maybe hit someone over the head with it, but like that's all kind of it's good for. Gasoline. Gasoline stinks. It's kind of dangerous. But again, when it's a part of a car, it has power. It has value. A clutch, same thing. You're probably just going to hit someone over the head with it. But when it's attached to a car, it has value. There are all these individual things that feel worthless to you. They feel like they're nothing. But when you put them together, they create something amazing. A car is not really worth much, but when you put it together, it has huge value. Transportation, resale value, all that stuff. So I want to tell you that you are more than your individual parts. You might see your background, you might see your strengths, and you might think that they're meager. They have no real value. They're not really worth anything. But God has crafted you in such a way where all of those things, when they're put together, it has huge value, and you have huge creative potential that nobody else has. And so my goal for you this morning, or this afternoon, is that you would see that potential and embrace it and go after it. Don't try to be like someone else. God has made you uniquely you for a reason. Be yourself. Thank you.